What's up, crew? Welcome back to Libertalia Game Supply. I'm not going to do a whole profile of this deck list, but I just wanted to show you guys a couple of little things I've been trying out with Bujins here. So now I think that it's possible to make use of this little Utopia package down here in the extra deck with very minimal intrusion on the main deck here. You need to play that double or nothing to get to your two Utopia monsters, and you need to play the Wing Pegasus if you're going to play the Leo Utopia Ray. So it does introduce some bricks to the deck, but I think that what you get out of it is probably worth the trade. So basically by adding this in here, you now have a couple of one-card options. So now whereas before where you needed to get any sort of a negate on the board is Torifun plus another Bujin bare minimum, you can now go Torifun as a one card to get into either the full armored Utopic Ray Lancer, which we don't have yet, and I don't think we know when we're getting it. My best guess would be if we get like a Battles of Legends set around June. Hopefully that would be when we end up getting it. But once it is out, you can one card combo your way up into the Utopic Ray Lancer. I think that this is a really interesting card, especially because we're going to be searching this double or nothing and then not using it for anything, and that's relevant because it gives you that free rank up essentially for the Ray Lancer. Now this doesn't feel like a turn one card at all. This is a grind game card or a going second card because it just shuts off your opponent's board essentially at the start of battle phase, so it lets you push through some stuff. Plus it drops everything they control by 500, so it'll allow you to attack over some bigger things. It's essentially a 3K board shut off during the battle phase at that point. Now you also have a one card Utopia Leo with two negates, two monster negates, one of which can't be chained to in the Twin Saber. Or doing the same little setup with double, you could just make Dragnar and go into what I have in here is 38, which will give you a spell negate, but then you don't get a monster negate. But either way, one card combo can get you a negate or two on board, and I think that that's a big power increase for the deck in terms of like it just being able to play through some shittier hands. Now with that being said, I wouldn't play both. I left both in here just to talk about them, but I would pick either the Leo Ray or the Dragnar with its target, and this target can be whatever number monster you want, but 38 just seems like the best option because I'm not going to play the rank up spell. I just don't think it's really worthwhile to play an additional kind of like brick card, but the 38 gets its spell negation effect without using material, and then it gives itself material if you wanted to use that effect to detach and change attack targets, which is fairly irrelevant most of the time. If you were going to play the rank up spell, there's a lot of different ones you could use. The rank up spell essentially attaches itself to whatever you summon off of Dragnar as material. I really like the Buzz King. Being able to see your opponent's extra deck seems like a pretty good play, especially if you're going first. You can set this up before going off with the rest of your hand to see what the extra deck looks like, and now you know what you're playing against, so could be worth doing that as well. Personally, I think I will stick with the Leo Utopia Ray, so I would take these two out and probably just stick Exciton and Zeus back in there just because they're good kind of generic Xyz cards. I also think that it's very possible to leave the Bystial stuff in there, still be able to have access to that Chaos Angel as well as giving you a few hand traps. This is probably the most small worldable deck that you will ever see. Small World can search with any card in your hand essentially. So Small World with one of your Dark Bystials can get you to like your Lubellion or any of your other hand traps through the Haruko. Through any of your light monsters, you can get to any of your other light monsters just by using one of your non-Bujin hand traps as the bridge if you're trying to get to a Bujin, or if you're trying to get to one of the hand traps, you just use a different one to get you there. So Small World in this deck I feel is a absolute must unless we get some type of in-archetype searching to get us to our main pieces more consistently. I don't think that it's worth cutting this at any point. That's 3-0 for sure. Well, let's go through some of these one card setups and then I'll show you there's a different version of, you could 1.5 card combo into F-Zero previously. Now you can I guess 2.5 card combo into F-Zero plus either of these. So you can get a couple of negates on the board. It gives you a little something more, where normally if you had additional extenders you could keep going, but a lot of times the deck will like leave Bujins on board, which don't do as much as they should when you're passing the turn. So you have decent protection, but your removal ones, the Centipede and the Quillen, are not quick effects. The Sinew is a nice little battle trap, I guess you could call it. But unless they get some type of quick effect interrupt Bujingi at some point, just leaving a Bujin on board for the sake of these is getting less and less useful because they're just kind of slow at this point. But we'll go ahead and take a look at these combos here. Alright, so as mentioned, we got a couple of one-card setups, and I'll go through all three of them, but they're essentially the same thing. Torifun, put two bodies on board. We won't worry about what they are, but if you've seen any of my videos in the past, you know that we do care. We're also going to skip the Mahitatsu just for the sake of time. Now first off, this is just going to be, you're mostly going to use this as a follow-up. So turn 1, you built your board with your negates. On your turn 2, you can then do this to help you push for game. So you can detach and search, and we're going to grab our Photon Sanctuary. So now I think the only real hiccup with this in the deck with the Utopia stuff, or with the Ray Lancer specifically, is because Sanctuary has that restriction that only allows you to special summon light monsters after you use it. But in this instance, we can go ahead and just special summon the Ray Lancer by using it as discard fodder instead. And so 1 card Ray Lancer right there, all self-contained. You don't have to hope to draw into a spell. And then for the other 2, obviously the same setup. Detach, 2 bodies, doesn't matter for now. And we're going to overlay for Utopia double this time. So this is why I wouldn't play both the Utopia Leo Ray as well as the Dragonar, is because if you draw the double or nothing, it shuts down all of this. If you can't search the spell, you can't get the rank up to the other Utopia. And so at that point, 4 of your extra deck slots become useless. Not probably a great idea for deck building purposes, but right here you have a quick effect that cuts an attack in half when you use it, so it can be battle protection if they try to attack something other than itself, because nobody's attacking over this guy. And then we have the negate with Twin Saber, which is a pretty crazy negate. You can't chain to it, you can't negate it as far as I'm aware, so you pretty much just hit them with the no, not today, we're not doing that. And it doesn't like spend itself to do that. So you have the 2 negates every turn that these are up. So this is a pretty cool card to be able to just summon off a 1 Torifun. And then the other version of that would be doing the same thing, Utopia doubling your way up into the Dragonar instead. So same deal, we make the double, we do our search, and we get our special summon. And so now we only have the 2 material. We're not playing the rank up spell, so it limits which monsters you can reasonably summon and still get use out of. And so there we are. So now as you saw when that screen popped up, you could have also summoned the Leo Utopia Ray. It doesn't get its negate effect unless it has the equipped card attached to it. So you would need to be able to get to the Twin Saber, and because you have no materials, because we don't play the rank up, you wouldn't be able to do that, and so it's not as good. If we played the rank up, I suppose either one is still a decent choice, but here you have the spell negate, and then this can reduce a monster's attack to 0 when it attacks. So once again, nobody's really going to attack over this thing with 6,000 attack. It's probably just going to get hit with some removal, and it doesn't protect itself in any way, but you do have that spell negate, and so worth considering there. And now for what is probably one of the better boards this deck can now build using some of this stuff. You need the Torifun 100% of the time when you're talking about a combo in this deck. Then you need one of your extenders, so it could be the Haruko, the Harume, the Arasuda, even the Tenki or the Small World with some expendable resources to get you there. And because of Tenki and Small World, this is a lot more likely than it seems like it might be. But you just need the Torifun, the extender, and then any of your Bujin level 4s that you can special summon, so just not Harume. But we'll start you off the exact same way, and same deal. I guess we'll do all the steps this time with Mahitatsu. So Mahitatsu and Hair. I like Hair just because once you get it in the graveyard, you have that protection, and you can set up a targeting negate real quick with the turtle. So we'll do that. So now you're set up here, and then as soon as you go into your Galaxy Photon and get your search off, you now have Turtle and Hair in graveyard. We'll go into our Photon Sanctuary. We're gonna use it. So this is what I was referring to in that Ray Lancer combo, is you're gonna use these 2 cards kind of in a lot of your setups unless you open really good, like a couple of extenders with your Torifun. So you're probably not going to have that 1 card setup unless you get shut down turn 1 and don't get to do all this stuff, which is fine. It's just good to have that in the back pocket, but you still will end up having the double or nothing search off of this version of the combo. We'll get our Ahashima effect. We won't trigger anything. We're gonna go Centipede, and whichever one, I would probably go Hair and leave the Turtle, because as soon as they try to target one of your Bujins, you want to try to shut that down. But really by this point, if they had a negate, they probably would have used it by now. So we'll go into the Susanoo in this moment, get a search. So now we have one of the extenders. You're just gonna end up searching a different one. So whatever that ends up being, just don't do the same one, because a second one of these, I guess it could be done, but not worth your while. We're gonna go with the Harume. That's probably one of the better ones to search, not the better one to draw because it can't be normal summoned. But we'll rank up our Susanoo into our Amaterasu, and then Amaterasu will give us that additional body on board. Now whatever you special summon doesn't matter here Normally it could matter if we're leaving the Amaterasu up, just because we're going to end up using the effect again on the opponent's turn. In this version of it, we are not going to be doing such things. And actually we're going to go into the F-Zero right away, just so we can not banish Bujingis here. So you can use your 2 monsters that were on the board. So sometimes it's Amaterasu, sometimes you just leave it as Susanoo, depending on what extenders you had. Now we can go ahead and special summon the Harume, banish something that is not a Bujingi, so we're not wasting that resource, and then go into double or nothing. And so right here, you'd be able to split this off the same way I showed those last 2 1 cards between the Dragonar and the Leo Ray. Same deal. So right here you have a negate, you have a pop for the back row. So essentially if you're passing on turn 1, you would have a negate and steal of a monster on the board, or just a negate of something out of the hand. When you do so, because it's pointing to this, you'd be able to pop some back row. So if they had like a field spell or some type of like continuous spell that you're trying to hit, right there it's gone. And then on the double or nothing, you're making the decision to either search and rank up to the Leo Ray or to the Dragonar. And obviously the Leo Ray is the 2 more monster negates. We'll do the Leo Ray for this one. It's the 2 monster negates there, so you now have 3 monster negates and a back row pop. Or this is the part that has me torn, is you could instead go into Dragonar. And so even though it has the restriction to where you're locked into Xyz summons in order to use its special summon effect, it's a quick effect, and so we would pass turn, and on our opponent's turn, as soon as you have something to chain to, we'll just get to that point, you would chain the quick effect to special summon your 38, and you would be able to put that spell negate on board as well. So essentially you're choosing between 3 monster negates and a back row pop, or 1 monster negate, a quick effect summon of a spell negate, which if they lead off with a spell, there's going to be a harder time using this effectively, and that back row pop. But if you are able to get both on board before they activate any starters, the nice thing about that is it would then cover pretty much any starter card in any deck. There's not really trap cards that get a deck rolling, so you would have the negate to stop whatever their play is right away, and so that's what kind of makes it a toss-up. I think the fact that you have to kind of play around with the quick effect in order to get this on board makes this the lesser option, and so that's why I would stick with the Leo Utopia Ray instead. But that's pretty much what I got for you today. Let me know what you think about this idea. You're going to try it out? Do you think it's interesting? Do you think it's going to work? I fear that I may take a step too far in the realm of like anime type decks where you're playing a bunch of 1-ofs that you're hoping for to work out exactly the right way. But in the same vein, you're really not. If you draw the Pegasus Twin Saber, it sucks, and you can't really use the Leo Utopia Ray anymore unless you have a way of getting it onto your field. But then you just don't go for that play. You have a brick in your deck that you can still use as a discard for the Utopic Ray Lancer if you ended up drawing it. So I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. I've definitely built decks with way more bricks in it than that. So try it out. Let me know what you think. I think it's been pretty interesting so far. But in the meantime, happy deck building. I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a good one. Goodbye.